Okay. A very good morning to all. In today's session, you're going to learn what is all about the organizational behavior evolution and what are its approaches, its models, how the organizational behavior relates to the globalization and diversification areas. So, that is all about in today's session. So let's begin the importance of organizational behavior. So as I already told in the previous session that organizational is very important in an organization to understand the individual issues. You can see the skills which is actually needed in an organization for a better growth development of that particular individual. So how the organizational is important for an organization due why just due to the following reasons. The first reason is developing interpersonal skills. That's very true that organizational is very important to develop interpersonal skills. How the organizational develop interpersonal skills, it helps the manager who will highly activate their employees or the workers in terms of leading, motivating, how to analyze or have such skills which call it analytical ability, decision making skills, and many more other skills like critical skills. That how to analyze the particular, you can say, articles and relate to the you can say real life scenarios. So that's one of the important point is that organizational behavior develop interpersonal skills where the managers is always highly motivated or needed, you can say interpersonal skills when we talk about leading, motivating, or analytical or decision making skills or critical skills as well. The next point is personal development and understanding others. That's very important point. That when we talk about or being able to have a better understanding to others, which always being lead to a personal development for an individual. It always refers to a self knowledge and self insight, and of course. When we talk about the to understand others and ultimately if they are almost developing their personal skills and of course they increase their self knowledge and self insight relevant to the work that they hold exactly, and of course while understanding the others will also assist their managers in making a better decision and of course achieving the outcomes or the target which has been set by the organization. So understand in this particular point, understanding is a tool for a personal development and of course to get or gain a self knowledge and self insight in it. The next point is achieving organizational and individual effectiveness of inter-organization relationship. Organizational behavior will always help the managers, will always help the individuals to in becoming the more people oriented person that which enables to use their qualities, they use their wisdom or to understand so that the interpersonal communication between the team members, subordinates will improve, and of course they could able to resolve the conflicts and build up a effective team into their workplace, and that will be done through the organizational behavior only. So it's a very simple meaning is that it helps the manager to achieve or to understand or to improve their interpersonal communication between the organization members, whether it would be from senior position to lower position, whatever the conflicts arise, they can easily you can say remove and build up such a team that whenever any target or whenever you can say any objective to fulfill, they can work together as an effective team. The next point is sharpening and refining our decisions and actions. That's very true. And of course, we cannot see that organizational behavior is exactly sharpen and refine our decisions and actions. But of course, this particular behavior will challenge us to rethink, to re-engineering, or to revisit the whatever the accepted ideas, and actually they are partially true. And of course, accordingly, the particular managers or individuals have to work on the accepted or rework on the accepted ideas so that they will come up a possible true outcome or true fact or true result that will be used for a better decision making in an organization. And that can be done through the use of a concept of organizational behavior, which automatically teach everything, which automatically challenges to become a better a person in terms of improving the, you can say, diverse skills, whether it would be analytical, critical, motivational, leadership, or controlling. So such techniques are also being improved by the use or by studying the organizational behavior, which exactly relate to understand, to act or feel the behavior which has been influenced by the other people within the premises or outside the premises. And that's called the organizational behavior, and how important the organizational behavior is in today's scenario. The next one is the forces of organizational behavior. When we talk about the forces, what exactly the meaning of forces? Forces refers to an elements where the organization depend upon or it reflect or affect the organizational day-to-day management activities. So that's called the forces. These are the forces which are not to affect the organizational day-to-day activities, but it also influence the environment of the organization where the organization depends upon or relies on. That's called the forces. So when we talk about the forces, the first one is people. Who are we exactly? So they are we who try to achieve. We are the people. We are the persons who live, who think, who feel the exactly the beings or the well-beings who form the organization and always work to achieve the organization objectives and goals. And when we come up to the people, the organization which is full of human beings, which is who always think about the feelings, thinking, living for their own well-being, that exactly form the organization and always try to achieve the goals and objective of the organization. That human organization is exactly called people. And of course, such organization changes according to time, day to day. So, of course, as we cannot commit that the thinking and the feelings would remains constant. Of course, it keeps changing in a particular organization, and those people who form such organization is always think for the organization to by achieving the goals and objectives of the same. The next force is structure. Of course, there are so different people who act, who think, who behave differently in an organization, and definitely they are also given a different roles which have a certain relationship or co-relationship with others as well. And definitely they all need to work in a very structured manner so that their work can be effectively coordinated and you can say and they could work effectively by the you can say cooperative manner in a very structured way when it comes to judge, when it comes to evaluate the performance within the organization, and that exactly called the structure. So whatever the roles has been given, what type of relation has been maintained with others or with the job, so all need exactly to do in a very structured manner so that their work will be well effective coordinated in an organization. So that is called exactly the one of the force of organizational behavior is structure. The next force is technology. Technology here we are talking about all those resources where people, you can say, take the assistance in an organization. So people are given assistance by way of buildings, by way of machines, tools, processes, and whatever the available resources in an organization. So, of course, technology will always assist those people to perform their job more and more better. And of course, technologies is also have their own limitation. So definitely, they also restrict our people into various ways. And definitely, technology helps them to perform their job effectively and coordinatedly, and of course the managers to also help them that how to use the technologies, the softwares that they work on, so accordingly they will do. So that's the third force of organizational behavior, that is technology. The next concept is social system. So when we talk about the social system, so always we talk about organization or a human organization will always a part of a larger system, which contains all elements like government, family, and other organization, including competitors, rivals, etc. So they are all these elements, whether government, family, or other organization, are automatically influenced to each other in a very complex manner that creates a particular environment, a creative environment, or a contest way for a group of people. And that's called the social system. That is the fourth force of the organizational behavior. So social system is all about the other elements of the you can say organization, like government, family, or other organizations that they deals with the one organization, and automatically they mutually influence to each other in some way in a very complex environment, and that environment will be created for a group of people as well to work on, and that's called social system. Now we talk about the next important concept, that is the evolution of organizational behavior. So these are that how the organization begin with. So these are the three main studies where such concept has been drive has begin with. So the first approach or concept is scientific management approach. As in the previous slide, I already explained what is all about management, what is a manageable roles, what is a manageable skills. That is a part of the scientific management. And that is the beginning of the organizational behavior. So basically, when we talk about it, the management approach, scientific management concept has been developed by the Frederick Winslow Taylor in the beginning of the 20th century. Basically, this approach is based on an assumption that employees are motivated or should be motivated largely by money, of course, through by the compensation, by the pay packages or salary, and the importance of delivering the monetary incentives are equally efficient, and it should be provided to the efficient workers only. So that's a approach where such concept, organizational behavior concept, has been begin with. That is called the scientific management approach, where those are based on assumptions. It should be motivated, and the maximum to maximum monetary incentives will be given, and to understand the importance of giving such monetary incentive to the efficient workers. The next concept is bureaucratic approach. This concept has been developed by the Max Weber, who always give a form of structure called a bureaucratic, which works for all the organization. Basically, it always focus on the division of labor concept or principle. It always focus on the law or orders, rules or regulations. So whatever the structure, organizational structure will be developed, whether it would relate to the other organizations or it relate combined by the government, whether it private or public organizations. So it always such approach or such beginning will be focused on the organizational structure, division of labor, laws and order, rules and regulations, etc. And this concept is applied for all organizations, whether it's related to private, public, or mixed organizations as well. So the next study is Hawthorne study. Basically, it always focus on the human behavior at work, then to understand, to act like to understand the human behavior at work, that how the employees would work and how they change their behavior in a working environment. And this particular study is brought down under this particular approach or concept. So this approach is also being focused on all those social factors which will be influenced to individuals and of course as a group on an individual behavior. So automatically, when we talk about such study, it's not only based on the human behavior at work, and it's also based on all those social factors which also influence the team, which also influence the group based on an individual behavior. So when we talk about this approach will also helps to apply a humanity-centric approach to work, where we understand the human behavior, accordingly we act to understand exactly deeply about such behavior of an individuals, and accordingly we sort out a solution to deal with such behavior, and that kind of study is called Hawthorne studies. So this is a beginning. When we apply these approaches, that's a beginning of the concept of organizational behavior. Because in these particular approaches of study, we are talking about the human, we are talking about the employees here, we are talking about the beginning of an organizational structure. Here we are talking about to study the human behavior or to understand the human behavior at work, and what would be the social factors that influence such humans in the work environment. So that is all about the beginning of the organizational behavior after studying or after testing these particular approaches and studies. Now we talk about here when we as an evaluation, so we always talk about the approaches and models. So where after studying these the concepts where the organizational behavior has been evolved, so these basic organizational models are also equivalent where the of the two you can say origin or for the origination of the organizational behavior. So these are the models of the organizational behavior: the autocratic, custodial, supportive, corrential, and the system. So let's begin our study one by one of these models, which is one of the most important concept of the program. The first one is autocratic model. This model is mainly based on the power and boss. So if there is a boss, of course he hold whole power of the organization, and those who don't follow the orders and who don't obey the you can say the rule of a particular boss, of a rule of the boss, or they don't respect of the managers, then of course they those people or those organizations will wages of the employees or the workers. So the boss pay the minimum wages as based on their performances. If the performances is minimum, so definitely the minimum wage will be allotted to such employees. When we talk about the higher performance, so of course, if any employee who have shown their performances or a higher performances due to their personal achievement factors, that accordingly the boss will decide the higher wages for them. So accordingly it shows the personally level that how they you can see behave with the boss, and of course it shows like it's a natural born leader, that is that leadership skills are excellent in an organization, and that's another factors as well, and that's overall called the autocratic model, which is based on the power of a boss or a power and boss. So this is a key points to understand this model. The next model is custodial model. This approach is mostly relies on the economic resources and always focused about the you can see the salary packages, that how much the wages is to be paid and what monetary benefit is to be granted to the employees. So automatically, this models is also focused on the security needs of the employees, which always be a motivating factor to them. For example, insurance, medical allowances, yeah, medical insurance, health insurance, life insurance, transportation allowances. So some needs are very important. We can talk about the employees' physical needs to be met when it comes to the field work. for which to be done for an organization, and the employer accordingly has to think that to grant or to pay some you can say extra security needs, which always a motivating factor to them, and accordingly they will work more effectively while they know that the security needs you can say will be granted, or to satisfy their security needs, which always a motivating factor to them itself. So if an organization if like does not have enough wealth to provide pension or other pay monetary benefits, then this approach just doesn't exist there. So if any organization doesn't able to pay any extra security needs, or they don't think upon the you can say in paying the extra you can say monetary benefits or incentives, then this approach will not exist. So mainly what was the exact meaning of this model is to focus on the pay, wages, to focus on the extra monetary benefits, which are all a part of the economic resources that ultimately deals with money. Another, and of course the security incentives, or you can say the employees physical needs to be considered, like to provide a fixed fitness center so that their physical needs to be you can say satisfied and achieved, so that they can work for an organization more energetically. So that's called the custodial model. The next is supportive model. Supportive model, when we talk about supportive, we always talk about one of the, you can say, component of the management, that is leadership. So it's not all about power or money. It's all about leadership. It's all about that how the manager will support them, and it also relates to it how they provide such an environment, such a climate, which also help their employees to grow, to achieve, and always think about the future of the organization, and whatever the ways they can put more and more efforts to achieve for. So that exactly the meaning of the supportive model. And in this particular model, employees will always take a responsibility to more and more focus on those areas to contribute, to improve themselves. If the management hasn't or has time to give them a chance to improve or to contribute as much for the organization, and it can be done by the leadership, it can be done but to support them in such a manner, to give such a climate or environment so that they can grow as much as own self and achieve and contribute something more to an organization. When we talk about such model, management orientation is always being developed to support the employees' job performance rather than just simply support the employee benefit payment. It's not all about just to support the salaries packages, to support the employee benefit payments. It's always support that how their job performances will be improved by the support of their managers, by the support of their senior members, and accordingly, their work will or must or should be effective. So that's all about supportive model. The next concept is cordial model. Cordial model is always a sense that deals with a sense of relationship, a sense of partnership with other employees, how they work, or you can say together as a team, and how they work cooperatively. That is all about the this model, that is cordial model. Here, the managers is always being joint contributors who not only help to a team, but they help as a coach, as a teacher to them, where they can discuss about the whole situations or issues, and accordingly employers are also open to discuss about the various scenarios or issues or situation, which is also their responsibility. And of course manager responsibility is also to build up such a team where they will open up and work together as a team. And that's called the corrigible model, where partnership with others is equally important. And it is also important to understand their employees, or you can say, or they, to understand employees behavior, which so that accordingly they can build up a better and efficient team to focus on achieving the goals of the organization. So when we talk about such approach, we always talk about in this particular model self-discipline. Because why? Because here we are talking about the organizational behavior. So the psychological result, when we talk about the psychological result of the employees, is self-discipline. They will get to know about their own self and work in a discipline according to the terms of the manager, and they are very open up that time to discuss anything if they face something wrong. When we talk about under this model, employees are, when we talk for working a good relationship or a partnership with others, they feel a degree of fulfillment. Okay, it's a worthwhile contribution, or whatever we have achieved, it's a self achievement, or in other words, we can sort a self actualization. That whatever they do, they first satisfy their own self, and ultimately it automatically satisfy the managers and organizational team members. And that's the this model where the partnership and where the working relationships, or a fair working relationship, a friendly working relationship with employees, is exactly called the cordial model. The last concept is system model. Since employees always asked to spend many hours of their day, so it's all about the system of an organization. How much the time you devote, how much the number of hours in a day you devote, what work that you are willing to do, what work exactly you're doing is actually ethical or infused or integrate and makes a sense of trust to managers. And of course such model will also provide an opportunity to all those employees to experience a sense of community among co-workers, that the employees who are working as a team, they can have a sense of community. They will help each other whenever required in an organization, in respect of the money, in respect of any health issues, in respect of any leaves applications, or any other matters in an organization. So when we talk about to achieve a sense of community among co-workers, managers always focus to have or to show a sense of care and compassion, and always towards, and always being sensitive about their needs towards their employees. And automatically, as this is a fact that there is a rapidly changing needs and a complex environment whenever the organization you can say work has been, you can say more, and then automatically stress to the employers to work as much as you can to achieve the target. So definitely, of course, the manager has a you can say responsibility or to show some sense of care to take care of their changing needs, the complex or personal or family needs matters as well. And that's called a system model, where the manager role is to demonstrate a sense of care and compassion towards their workers and to take care about their changing needs and complex personal and family needs as well. And accordingly, the organization has a system where they have a specific rules or regulation towards their duties of their job, whether it would relate to the working time, whether it's related to the ethical work, or which also demonstrate a sense of trust, a sense of community in this particular model, where the employees is not deals with self-discipline of the quality approach, but also when they face that the organization thinks about their employees and just feels that their family and their personal matters would take care of, and how the friendly workforce is to be done according to the changing needs, then we are not talking about the cordial approach. Here, we in this model, we are talking about the self motivation. When the employees feels a sense of community, a sense of trust, a sense of care, then automatically employees feels a self motivation in which they take their own responsibility to achieve or focus to achieve goals and their actions. So that's called a system model. So every system works. So manager system is to demonstrate their care and compassion, and the organizational system is to focus on their workings environment, whether it's related to time period, whether it's related to provide an opportunity, a sense of community among their co-workers, and that's all about system model. So these are the distinguish between among all models, that the basis of model autocratic is based on power, custodial is economic resources, supportive is leadership, cordial is partnership, system is also partnership, where the manager and the managers always think about their employees. Manageable orientation. Here we talk about the authority. A boss has an authority to you can say for their employees to being obedient towards the managers. When we talk about custodial, we talk about money, because economic resources, we talk about the salary, we talk about the monetary benefits. Extra, we can talk about the security needs we are talking about in custodial model. Supportive, we talk about leadership. Cordial, we talk about the teamwork. System, we also talk about the teamwork. Employee psychological result, of course, it dependent on boss. Custodial be dependent on the organization. Participation, of course, they work as a team. Cordial self-discipline, and when we talk about system is self-motivation. So when you know the concept and when you understand this distinguish, you can easily elaborate these particular models in their own words. You don't need to remember the bookish language just to need to know or to understand the key words of this model, and you can easily elaborate in your own words. It's not at all difficult when it comes to express your views, express your language into a notebook. When we talk about employee needs met, let's talk about subsistence, industrial security. Here, supporting, we talk about status. As cordial, we talk about self actualization. And of course, system, we talk about the highest order needs. When we talk about the performance result, it's we always autocratic, it's minimum. It's when the results is to be performance results to be shown up when we talk about the question passive cooperation. Supportive, in case of support, is awkward, is awakened drives that you have to motivate the employee to reach out or the performance could be well achieved. Cordial, we talk about the moderate enthusiasm. So, of course, we talk about the partnership. So, we always enthuse the employees to focus on achieving the goals and objectives of the organization. When we talk about the system, we talk about the full enthusiasm. And when we talk about the moderate, we talk about the moderate. So there is a category of the altruism. It's a moderate altruism. We talk about the case of partnership, and of course in system model, which also relate to the partnership. But here in this case, a full altruism will be shown where as we talk about the self motivation. So when we talk about the self motivation, we always talk to antagonize our own self in a fully manner. Next is approaches to organizational behavior. Before approaches, we are talking about the evolution and whatever the basic models has been used to evolution of organizational behavior. In this particular concept, that is talk about the approaches of organizational behavior, which is one of the most important topic. So here the approaches are human resources approach, contingency approach, productivity approach, systems approach, and interdisciplinary approach. So when we talk about the approaches to organizational behavior, here we talk about the human resources approach. Basically, when we talk about the human resources approach, we always under this approach we always focus on the growth and development of the people who are actually working for a organization where competency, creativity, fulfillment is needed at a higher levels where the people are exactly the most important or essential asset of any organization. That exactly called the human resources approach, where such approach is mainly focused on growth and development, and where such skills will needed at a very high level. And of course these human beings or these people are the essential asset of an organization, and that's called human resources approach. Basically this approach will also help employees to become more and more better when it comes to work and responsibility, and always try to create such environment when they contribute their best performances or to improve their ability in a best way as they can in an organization, and that's called human resources approach. Here we are talking about people. Here we are talking about the growth and development. Here we are talking about what the exactly skills are needed to fulfill. Here we are talking about those employees or where you can say better environment or climate. You can say have a sense of work and responsibility so that they will contribute to their best you can say way or to improve their abilities in an organization, and that's called human resources approach. The next concept is contingency approach. Here, a contingency approach. Here we are basically talking about the different behavioral practices, not only towards the work effectiveness of the employees or to improve the effectiveness of the work of the employees. Here, no traditional approaches will be applied in all situations. In fact, if there is a different situation or different behavioral practices will be used. For example, if you talk about the models, the various models will be used. You can see the Harborn studies, or you can say will be used in different situations whenever needed. So here traditional approaches has no role, only the different behavior or modern behavioral practices will be used for the purpose to get work done effectively by the employees. Each situation must be analyzed carefully. That's very true. If the every performance will be analyzed accordingly, then automatically every situation will be analyzed carefully to determine whatever the variables you can see exist. It is really established the most effective practices or not. If you talk about the satisfaction, if you talk about the performance appraisal, that every situation, whatever the issues exist in an organization or due to the external factors, it must be analyzed carefully so that to determine whatever the variables or significant variables, whether it would be performance appraisal, it would be a job enrichment, a job development of an employee, that really exists to establish more effective practices or not. This approach will always help to analyze that you can say practices and to establish more effective practices whenever needed, and that's called a contingency approach. When we talk about the productivity approach, so always be there which the productivity is considered to be improved where the more input can be produced from the same unit of output. It means the technology which is being used for producing the output, if they produce more and more output using the same machine and technology, and that's called productivity. If the employees are working in an organization and they are giving the best results, so if they are working and more to achieve the targets, and according and again they are giving the best result, that means their productivity is get increased, you can say monthly or yearly, and that's called productivity approach. Productivity is considered being improved when more output can be produced from the same unit of output. If one product has been launched in the market and it's gained profits, then this if the same product will be relaunched in the same market and gaining the same profits, that's called the productivity is considered to be improved and getting better to better day by day or month to month. When we talk about economic input or output, and human and social input or output are also important. That's very true. When to achieve the productivity or the productivity is to be increased or has to be increased, the economic input and output, human and social inputs and output are also important variables. So it's not about that it's relate to the output of the employees. It also relate to all those variables, all those inputs which are needed so that productivity could be improved or can be improved, and accordingly it provides the same level of output. When you talk about the human, social inputs are also equivalent to reach out or to increase the productivity, and ultimately output is one of the most important tool of a productivity approach. So productivity could be increased, could be improved if the more output can be produced on the same unit of output. So if any product has been launched and the same product from the same product the output can be produced more and more, it means the productivity of that particular or product or productivity from that particular product is increased or improved, and that's called the productivity approach. The next one is systems approach. So this approach is mainly focused on the how they interdependent each other. For example, people in technology within the organization, and of course, organization is as a whole to work or to function accordingly or effectively. So automatically, this approach is mainly focused at how the interaction will be possible between the organization and its broader environment, which includes social, economic, cultural, and political environment in which they actually operate. So basically, system approach is dependent in two ways: dependent on the environment to provide input and dependent on the environment to accept the output. And that's all about system approach. So basically this approach is always focused how you interdependent between these two elements, people and technology, on which the organization operates in. It also focus on the interaction between the organization and its environment, whether it's related to the economic, culture, and political in which they operate. Only the two ways to get it dependent or interdependent on these elements, dependent on such environment to provide input, and dependent on such environment to accept the output in an organization. And that's all about system approach. The next is interdisciplinary approach. When we talk about interdisciplinary approach, this approach will always talk about the efficiency, how the efficiency could be achieved, in what ways the efficiency could be achieved. Is there any techniques so that the efficiency could be achieved? So this is that approach is called interdisciplinary approach. This approach is mainly focused on the efficiency can be achieved by finding out the right ways to get the job done through various specialization, whether it's related to marketing, finance, sales, or you can say logistic, etc., by planning and scheduling properly, by using such standard operating costing methods, or by using a standard operating mechanism, how to establish a standard time to do a job. It could be done by having a proper selection of the method and how the training to be provided to the employees and workers, and of course what should be the wage incentives is to be provided by the organization to such employees and workers. And this approach is called interdisciplinary approach, which always focus on efficiency. What should be the methods, right methods to be used? What specialization such methods to be used? What methods are required um, to increase the efficiency, whether any proper selection of method or training is required for the employees and workers, and what incentives, wage incentives, pay incentives to be provided for the employee and workers. And that when we talk about efficiency, when we talk about how to get efficiency in what ways, that exactly called the interdisciplinary approach. Now we talk about the organizational behavior or globalization and diversification. So when we talk about these particular three main terms, that how the globalization relate to the organizational behavior and how the organizational behavior is related to or refers to diversification of various elements. So here is the answer. When we talk about globalization, of course, whatever the multinational operations of business always adds a new dimensions to organizational behavior. Organizational behavior is not only about to study, act, or behave. It's also about to study a new dimensions of business environment, and it's a new step to enter into it, into different environments, whether it's related to social, political, cultural, and economic. It also related what should be the or what would be the differences between these environments, and when to study or to understand such differences in environments, we always talk about the globalization and organizational behavior. So automatically, when it come back to the multinational operations of business, it always adds a new dimensions to such organizational behavior, and always a new step into a different environments related to social, political, and agriculture and cultural environments. When we talk about the differences, that definitely true. The social, political, and cultural workforce differences are always exist among the various countries due to their cultural differences or language differences, and automatically it influence the international organizational behavior in a various ways, and that's called the organizational behavior and globalization, where all these differences exist in various countries, and such differences influence international organizational behavior into various ways. So let's talk about these ways. First one is social condition. We always have a shortage of manageable personnel, scientists, technicians in many countries when you talk about the poorly developed resources. We always need to have a required skills according to the specified specification, and of course it must be imported from other countries. We called the required skills from the other countries on a temporary basis, and accordingly, in that respective countries, a training programs need to be developed so that it could be trained the local workers and employees into that specific countries, or especially a poorly developed uh, countries due to the poorly developed resources as well. So resources is not about the human resources. The resources is also talk about the technologies. So when we talk about the different diversified countries where a shortage has always been available, it could be the shortage of the scientist or technician or manageable persons, and whenever the countries who doesn't have a required skills, of course they will called up from other countries on a temporary basis, and if the training programs is needed to develop or to train such local workers, they do accordingly. And of course, there is an interwind between the local culture and technology. So when we talk about the international organizational behavior, there is an interlinked between what would be the other country's culture and the technology, and accordingly it work on. So, and of course, when we talk about the social condition, always there is a rise of ethical issues in the organization. It could be a conflict of interest, it would be a sexual harassment, it would be employee theft, it would be organizational justice and whistleblowing. So such issues, ethical issues will also exist or also on rise in the international organizations when the when the required skill or required personnel will be called from other countries to work in own country on a temporary basis. So such ethical issues will always be exist in an organization. The next one is political conditions. So this include the instability, because as there is a different differences, whether it would be workforce, it would be culture, it would be economic differences in an international organizational behavior in plenty of ways. So these are the ways where the differences actually exist. Political condition refers to instability of the government, unstable government. It always restrict the industries to a particular areas, a particular you can say stream of products, like for example alcoholic products, tobacco products, like that, and nationalist drives such as self-sufficiency in latest technology. Sometimes the technologies or the latest technologies would not be acceptable in all the countries, and political barriers is always be exist in every country, especially the when the government become when the stable government exists, then definitely the such issues in respect of self-sufficiency in latest technology will always exist. Economic condition, we talk about the less developed nations who are having a low per capita income, rapid inflation, and of course there is a shortage of advanced technology and the use of sophisticated organizational systems. So these differences will always be harm to understand the international organizational behavior in an organizations of different countries. These are the cultural differences in an organizational individualism versus collectivism, power distance, uncertainty avoidance, and masculinity and the femininity and time duration. So these cultures, with respect of the various parameters, will always have a differences between the countries. Workforce diversification, where the style of communication would be different, the differences of culture among the individual, including their own culture, gender, age, religious, personality, social status, and sexual orientation. So it always called a resistance to change, and communication problems, conflict, and decision making issues is always exist in the workforce in a different organization in various countries. So each technological advancement, of course, pressure on organizational behavior and how they maintain a balance between technical and social systems. So automatically, today's technology has started affecting the nature of management, how they develop a technical competencies and how they motivate and deal with it, such stress, depression, and anxiety, which also helps to employees to adjust technological changes. So that's all for today, and thank you so much for listening, and namaste to all.